So, one of the things as Jehovah's Witnesses that we were never allowed to do was talk about politics. We were expected to be neutral, but you guys know that most people in the congregation had their own opinions in the back of their minds. Some people voiced them, some people didn't voice them, but we all know they totally had them. And I think it's really fantastic that now we can talk about politics open and honestly. And one of the things I really try to do is, in the world, they say, if you want peace, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion. And I understand that for the most part, but at the same time, I think it's also good if we're able to talk about politics and religion in a healthy way, full of respect and dignity, and bring everyone's ideas to the table and have a discussion, like learn to talk without offending and with accepting everybody's viewpoint is different. I think one of the major things that affects people's views is how we were raised and how we grew up, the people around us, how they influenced you, because you know that if you grew up in Texas, you're more than likely a Republican. If you grew up in California, you're more than likely Democratic. And so it majorly affects us how we were raised and what area we were brought up. And I want to accept that. Like, for example, I did not grow up with guns at all in Europe. I was not, introduced to them. And so I see my viewpoint and my world from a standpoint of not having been around guns ever, right? But if you grew up somewhere where guns were part of your life, then more than likely that is your viewpoint. You probably don't see it as dangerous or have different opinions on it. And I want to accept that and have debates that are healthy. And so another thing too is we came from a cult, from a high control religion, from extreme views. And I really want to try to not be cultish in my life now and have extreme views and call out wrong when something is wrong, call out right when something is right on both sides, and kind of try to stay in the center a little bit so I can keep an open mind. But obviously how I was raised and who I'm around affects me, and I understand that. So I would like to have open discussions, and I can say that both parties have things I agree with and disagree with, and that's fine. And let's talk about it. Let's learn to talk about these things without anger and hate, but constructive. Also, I really think that all this hate is so unhealthy, and these extreme views are very unhealthy because united we stand. That's for every country. And divided we fall. That was a big reason why Constantine back in the day wanted to combine Christianity and all this paganism in his empire, because he knew that divided we fall. And so he kind of started combining the two things to make them united. I do think that's really important because we're so focused on left and right and all this. And meanwhile, I feel like foreign authoritarian powers are laughing because we don't have unity within ourselves. But one thing I do have to bring out, now whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, Trumpism in itself is very cultish. I mean, cult experts write books on this. Never before have we seen flags flying and, this extreme alliance and not being able to say anything. I notice it as at my work. You used to be able to talk about left or right, when it was, let's say, Bush versus Kerry, you could talk about it without these enormous emotions. And really even like Obama and McCain, I think they're both really good men. I think both have integrity, and it wasn't this like all-out war and hate. So I notice it right now. If you say anything, if you call out anything, it's very hateful, and that's unhealthy. And so I am going to talk about this a little bit, whatever your political alliances are. It doesn't matter, but this Project 2025 should scare you. It is a way to make this country that is a free country. The United States is a free country, but we're slowly disassembling rights for people. Abortion rights is such a scary topic for people, but really abortion rights isn't just abortion. It's a medical procedure as well. Like sometimes there's a medical procedure to save the life of the mom, and it is classified as an abortion, but doctors' hands are tied here because they can't help the mom survive. And we see this in so many cases. Like this doesn't have anything to do with religion or really abortion. It has to do with saving a life of the mother, of medical procedures classified as abortion. And the fact that that is being disassembled slowly and that birth control is slowly being taken away is kind of scary, really scary. And we shouldn't be going backwards. We should be moving forwards in modern nations. So that is terrifying to think of. Like no women should accept this as a reality, that we're going to struggle to find healthcare when we need it, or struggle to find birth control. And, I absolutely love having kids. I always wanted to be a mom, but even within the Jehovah's Witnesses, birth control is really limited, and I couldn't take the pill. And so my babies are very, very close in age because of that fact. It would have been nice to have a little bit of space in between, and it was hard on me having baby after baby. And yeah, that is partially the religion's fault. So when I'm looking over this Project 2025, what I'm seeing here is this is kind of like a Jehovah's Witness dream. If you think of paradise for the Jehovah's Witnesses is basically Project 2025. And we can go over some of these things, like, for example, end no-fault divorce, because that is very, discouraging to even get a divorce for people. Then they're going to stay married in abusive relationships. Yes, a Jehovah's Witness dream. So check for that one. Complete ban on abortions. Check. Complete Jehovah's Witness dream right there. That is paradise for them. No abortions. And I did always think of witnesses who had to have medical procedures classified as abortions. That's such a gray area. The Watchtower doesn't talk about it, but that is a reality for some women. So how do they see this? I have no idea, but I know that they're very anti anything with the term abortion without understanding that it's also health care. The next bullet point is ban contraceptives. And as Jehovah's Witnesses, you have so little things available to you. Basically, anything that lets the egg and the sperm unite is not allowed. And so for me, not being able to take the pill, that put a big damper on it. I couldn't do the shot. I couldn't do the patch. And I know that some witnesses do those, but they don't really realize that that's really not allowed as a witness. Vasectomies, not allowed. It talks about that you're mutilating the male productive system, and Jehovah looks down on that, which is complete baloney. But I totally know an elder who said, I got a vasectomy because what am I going to have, like baby after baby? Just don't tell anybody. So that gives you a little bit cognitive dissonance because you're thinking, all right, like we're as witnesses not supposed to do that from the literature, but at the same time here you're telling me that's okay. But in the end, I kind of agreed with him because I felt like this was not Watchtower's business to interfere, because they're not going to help me raise kids. They're not going to help me financially. It just makes it harder to go to meetings and in service. So this is really like a weird thing. Then we kind of get into tax breaks for corporations, higher taxes for working class. We could say basically the Jehovah's Witnesses are kind of on board for that, because they're constantly fighting for tax breaks for their corporation, aka the Watchtower. They want to get, tax exempt status. They fight in countries where they're no longer viewed as a religion because of their shunning practices, and that's all because of tax breaks. So yeah, I'll give them that point too. They don't care for taxes for the working class because they're telling us to pay our taxes, and meanwhile they're fighting, for not fighting taxes. So yeah, in their mind, that works for them. Eliminations of unions and worker protections. I always thought this was a really, really tough point for witnesses too, because unions are good for people. Unions help. The people deserve their pay. And I know that it goes awry sometimes and that it doesn't always work out perfectly because it's not a perfect system. But my husband's union, and in that regard, union is pretty darn good, because they do fight for you to have a better wage and, health care and all this. But at the same time, it's kind of scary, because if you're a witness and you want to fight for the union, you want to picket, you're not really allowed, because your only cause is the paradise, the kingdom message. So they don't really want you getting involved in striking and all that. And I always thought that's weird, Why can't you stand up for a cause that you believe in other than Watchtower causes, and it's kind of the same with Black Lives Matters. Like, it's an important cause for equality. Why can't I, if I'm Black, stand up and say, this matters to me? I don't, and whether I'm Black or not, we have children that are mixed race, that are Black, that are Hispanic, of color, and we want to stand up for our kids that their lives matters. When they get pulled over, they shouldn't have to be scared. And there's a lot of little nuances that I think are really important. And so when you're a witness and, all this Black Lives Matter stuff is going on, and they are completely discouraging you from having an opinion about it, speaking out about it, but yet in your heart it is important to you, I think that's baloney. Why shouldn't you be able to say that? And I don't even really think that's a political cause. That's a cause for human rights and human lives, So I felt like, man, this is so messed up that you can't participate in something that's so important, So raise the retirement age, cut Social Security, cut Medicare, and the Affordable Care Act. Yeah, that's, in paradise. They don't want any of that. They don't care about any of that. Raise prescription drug prices. They don't really care about that either. Eliminate the Department of Education for Jehovah's Witnesses. Bible education is like a college education. Come on, guys. Wasn't that funny when they would say that? If you read all the literature, you basically have a bachelor's degree. Have you heard people say that? Cracks me up so much, because what are you going to do with a Watchtower degree? Are you going to go and apply for jobs and say, I read all this religious stuff, so I basically have a bachelor's degree. You should hire me. Yeah, maybe a bachelor's degree in cults. This is so ridiculous. So yeah, witnesses don't really care for that, Use public taxpayer money for private religious schools. Come on, the witnesses would have a field day with that. If they could get public taxpayer money for their Gilead school and Pioneer school, they would eat it up. You know that. Teach Christian religious beliefs in public schools. If witnesses could do it, they would have a field day too, but of course not for every religion, and they don't see the other Christian religions as the truth. So it would only definitely be Jehovah's Witness beliefs. If they could teach that in school, they would love it. and free and discounted school lunch programs. You know the witnesses would do that in a heartbeat because they don't help people. The Watchtower does not help people. They want the local congregations to help. They want the local brothers to help. But the society, they don't help people. And so that's kind of a messed up thing too, if you think about it, because here the local congregation is probably mostly pretty poor people. They have to arrange to feed the elders, to feed the circuit overseer, to feed the pioneer school. If there's a Kingdom Hall build, the local congregation is asked to feed them. And the last year before I woke up, it was just crazy. We had a bunch of builds around us and renovations, and they were asking constantly for help. And I remember them asking if somebody could make like rice to feed 50 people. And I was a single mom with kids, and I thought, this is crazy. Like, we're helping constantly with stuff. I'm going in service. I feel like I'm dying. I'm so exhausted. And now they're asking us if we can feed and make rice for 50 people. I can't even afford to feed our family. Like, that's crazy. And how come, like, the Watchtower organization himself doesn't send money to feed? They have so much money. They could definitely cater to all these events and still be filthy rich. So that's messed up to me. And civil rights and DEI protections and government. Watchtower does not care about civil rights. We talk about that. Ban African American and gender studies in all levels of education. They would be totally on board to that because they really don't want us to have identities beyond that we're Jehovah's Witnesses, you know. So if you want to be proud of your culture and learn about that and teach, not allowed. Ban books and curriculums about slavery. Not sure about this one. I think that they don't really want you to like dwell on the past much, and you are supposed to look into the future and how you're going to be free in paradise. So probably. Ending climate protections. This is all part of Project 2025. Ending climate protections. You guys, this is one point. It really does drive me crazy. We have one earth, right? And Jehovah says he will destroy those destroying the earth. You know that scripture. And I always tried to be good to the earth right now. I'm not just looking for paradise. I want to be good to the earth now. And so I heard this pioneer sister and elder's wife talk together how like all this plastic stuff is so stupid because Jehovah will take care of it. And she was kind of like mocking the environment because she's like, I don't really care. I take as many plastic straws as I want to, and they all go in the trash. Ha ha ha, because Jehovah will fix it in paradise. And I went over there and I pulled up some pictures of like, if you've seen like the whales that have like swallowed all the trash and everything. And I said, but the Bible says that Jehovah will destroy those destroying the earth now, not just in paradise. And so I think that we need to take care of the earth even now. We can't just have this dismissive attitude of like, I do what I want. I'm not going to try to be good to the planet because paradise will fix it all. I hate that. It's like this learned helplessness, like you don't have to worry or do anything because Jehovah will take care of it. And so that scripture to me proves otherwise, but we know Jehovah's Witnesses, they're not really worried because the more you go in service and preach driving around in cars, guess what? You're hurting the environment. You're trying to save people. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to listen, but you're actually contributing to polluting the environment with your pioneering by driving around and wasting gas and everything. So there's a different view on that whole thing. So then there's a bunch of things about the oil industry and stuff. Oh, here we go. Promote and expedite capital punishment. You know that's true. If you're an apostate, they want to kill you. So absolutely. End marriage equality. Oh, Jehovah's Witnesses are on board on that so fast. I mean, they have like homophobia like no other. And that was one of the points that really bugged me too, because I always thought, a sin is a sin. Worldly people sin. I'm not going to judge them for that. So if even like a man and a wife a man and a woman live together and they're not married, it's no different than if two guys live together, because a sin is a sin and we have to preach to everybody, so we should be kind to everybody. And we were taught previously that it's kind of like if someone smokes, we wouldn't smoke, but we're not going to judge the person. And I thought that being a witness meant being kind to everybody, being kind to the environment, being kind to every person and animal and everything. And then like the gay hate started, and I'm like, this is so messed up. Like, I did not like that because I thought it was very judgmental and very hateful. So that a Jehovah's Witness paradise is definitely Project 2025, and gay rights, gay marriage, they'd be on board of that. Here's another bullet point. Condemn single mothers while promoting only traditional families. And yes, while the J-dubs act like, single mothers, welcome, we love you, come to the congregation, let me tell you something. You're held in high esteem if you have a man on your side, because he's the head of the household. It doesn't matter if that man was a sex addict or something. A man's a man. You're worth more when you have a man on your side. So the traditional family is highly esteemed within the J-dubs. And when I became a single mom, I noticed the stigma so much. I really felt like our worth as a family had shrunken because we no longer had like our head with us. We don't have a man with us. And so they would definitely love that too. Condemn single mothers while promoting only traditional families. Oh, traditional families, they love that. Defund the FBI and Homeland Security. Who needs that when you have elders, right? Use the military to break up domestic protests. They'll have the judicial committees to have any protests and disfellowship you so fast. So, whatever. Mass deportation of immigrants and incarceration in camps. They would probably switch immigrants to apostates and would love to take them all out. So, yeah. And birthright citizenship. Well, in paradise, I'm not really sure about that one. Ban Muslims from entering the country. Oh, you better believe it, because there's nothing else that Jehovah's Witnesses love more than to hate all other religions. And in the J-dub world, you know that there's no religion they hate more than the Catholics, really. So I would switch this out for the Catholics. They have such a deep hatred for anything Catholic. Who knows why that is? Because they view all other religions as false religion, but the one I grew up hearing more than anything else was the Catholics. So Catholics, I don't know what you did to Rutherford or to Russell, but there's some animosity right there. So then eliminating federal agencies like the FDA, EPA, NOAA, the J-dubs would be right on board with that. And then to continue to pack the Supreme Court and lower courts with right-wing judges, we're going to just say it with hardcore elders. And there you got it. Jehovah's Witness Paradise is definitely Project 2025. This is their dream. So if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you hear about Project 2025 and how everything, they want to get rid of America as we know it, so to speak. If you're a Jehovah's Witness, that's exactly what the Jehovah's Witnesses want to do. And really, what is so beautiful about this country and, many other countries is freedom. Freedom to decide what you want to do with your life. Freedom of religion. Freedom is so important. And the Jehovah's Witnesses want to take away your freedom, and they already do. They take away your freedom to decide, about birth control, about medical decisions. Really, is it really freedom if you can't choose to save your child's life with a blood transfusion? I mean, I'm so glad I was never in that position, because how heartbreaking is that decision that so many Jehovah's Witness parents make, that they choose to be faithful to God, not take blood, and their kids die. This is a reality. It's a reality. But it's also not a free country where you don't get to make medical decisions based on your conscience and your love for your children. So I wanted to leave you with that. I do think we need to talk about this Project 2025, because whether you're a Republican, Democrat, independent, moderate, this very thing to make the country a Christian state is very scary. But also, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you're kind of living this already. That should also scare you. You're not truly free. They're telling you that you don't want to be a slave of the world and you're free within the organization. That's really gaslighting 101. Think about these things. Make decisions. Do your research on your own. And I encourage, let's have open discussions. Let's really talk about this openly. I think that's very, very important. I'm all for it. I think it's healthy to talk about things in a loving and kind way with respect toward everyone's opinions. Would love to hear you. Let's talk with mutual respect and dignity, and let's debate things out. Bring points to one another, and if you're presented with points that could sway you, accept that sometimes other people are right or wrong, or, don't be stubborn and blind like the Jehovah's Witnesses. When you're showing them something, they just don't want to see it. I don't want to be like that anymore. I want to talk. So let's talk. What do you think about this?